Hello and welcome to Stage Door Live, a brand new web programme for the community of artists here in Ireland. My name is Amy Kidd, I'm an actor and I'll be your host this evening. When the director Kevin Michael Reid came to me and he said that he thought he wanted to create a space where you could get all of the latest headlines and hot topics from the arts community in one place, I thought that it was a great idea. So every week I'll be giving you a little news roundup of arts-related hot topics, and I'll be speaking with some guest speakers that live and work here in Ireland. We hope you enjoy the show. Tonight I'll be talking to Tom Creed about the work of the National Campaign for the Arts and adapting during this turbulent time. Then I'll be having a chat with Annie Ryan, where we'll discuss productivity pressure, mindfulness, gratitude, and other practices that might help you, not only as an artist, but also as a human being during this strange global moment. Hello everyone, welcome to Stage Door Live, a new webcast from theatremaker.ie. Thank you so much for joining us for our first ever show. So Stage Door Live is made by theatre makers for theatre makers and lovers of the arts. At the moment, it can be really hard to make sense of this constant stream of information that we're getting from the headlines. So here we really wanted to zoom in on the arts-related news, to have stimulating discussions with arts workers and arts professionals in this country, and to connect to you, the arts community. Speaking of which, there is someone right now keeping an eye on our Twitter and on our Facebook. So if you have any thoughts on anything that we discussed this evening, or you wanted to share an experience that you've had with us, then give us a little shout out on there and we'll try and mention it at some point during the show. So soon I'll be chatting with Tom Creed and Annie Ryan, but first here are some news headlines, news highlights this week. And just to mention at this stage that usually for a news segment like this, there would be a teleprompter of some sort just up there. Given isolation circumstances, I did not have one hanging around the house, so I'll be referring to some sheets. Staff members of the Town Hall Theatre there have been temporarily laid off following this crisis. According to the Tribune, the employees, who were employed by Galway City Council, were assured by Chief Executive Brendan McGrath that there were no plans to lay off any of the council workers, only to receive an email days later that they were in fact being laid off. And this news came in the wake of so many artists and arts workers reportedly being rejected in their applications for the emergency COVID-19 payment scheme. Fortunately, and after much pressure from organisations like NCFA and other advocates, the Department of Culture, Heritage and the Gaeltacht announced a new help desk specifically dealing with queries from artists and arts workers. So if you need to get in touch with them, you can email them at artsunit@chg.gov.ie. So that's artsunit, ARTSUNIT, at chg.gov.ie. So you'll give them a summary of your query and your situation, leave your phone number, and one of their representatives will get in touch. And this morning, the Abbey Theatre announced the 100 artists taking part in the National Theatre's Dear Ireland initiative. Directors of the Abbey, Graham McLaren and Neil Murray, have said, "We hope Dear Ireland will be a provocation for dialogue, reflection and entertainment." And the Abbey aren't the only theatre to have had a rapid response to the COVID-19 crisis. The Axis Theatre Ballymun have announced a number of new series recently, and there's more information about those on their website. Finally, in the most uplifting news we've had since Jonathan White's digital Irish Times Theatre Awards address on Twitter, Dublin Zoo are working to increase their online traffic capacity. So while we may not have the live performance and in-person art that we're all craving, we can enjoy the spectacle of a penguin's feeding time at the zoo. I'd also like to take this moment to congratulate all of the winners and the nominees from the Irish Times Theatre Awards. My heart goes out to all of you, especially first-time nominees who didn't have the chance to celebrate with their community at the event itself, but sincere well done to you all. So now I would like to welcome our first ever guest on the programme, Mr. Tom Creed. Tom is a theatre and opera director from Cork, now Dublin-based. Tom is a former director of the Cork Midsummer Festival, and he's had work staged all over this country and also in the UK, Europe and the United States. He's directed exciting new writing such as Trade by Mark O'Halloran and opera like The Hunger by Donncha Dennehy. I recently saw the production of Anatomy of a Suicide by Alice Birch, which Tom directed in the Lear, a complex mammoth of a text and certainly no mean feat. Tom is also a leading advocate for arts in Ireland and a member of the steering group of the National Campaign for the Arts, which is where we're going to start our chat today. Hello, Tom.
Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thanks.
Good. Firstly, thank you so much for being our first ever guest. So first, my light's going a bit funny, isn't it? So first, should we start with the National Campaign for the Arts? So most people listening will probably know a bit about it, but just in case anyone has absolutely no idea what we're talking about, would you mind kind of starting from the beginning? Why did the organisation start? How did it form? And kind of what was its journey up until the COVID moment?
Yeah, so the National Campaign for the Arts came into existence, I guess, in the context of the last big crisis that we had in relation to arts funding, which was in the aftermath of the recession or the financial crash in 2008. The government commissioned a report which I guess, suggested a lot of cuts that needed to be made to stabilise the economy. But those included things like abolishing Culture Ireland and significantly decreasing support for the arts. So the National Campaign for the Arts came together as a kind of gathering of the arts community to advocate for the arts, to advocate for the value of the arts, and to make sure that the arts are on government agendas in Ireland. And so I've been involved with NCFA since 2016, where there was a moment where we might not have had a minister for the arts. There was the possibility that the arts would be rolled in with a lot of other areas of government. And kind of at that point, I think it's one of the ways that many people become involved with NCFA, actually, is that at a certain point they feel like enough is enough. I'm annoyed by what's going on. I don't think we're being treated, the sector is being treated with the respect that we deserve. So I've been involved with the committee since 2016. So we represent 23,000 artists and arts workers in Ireland. And we advocate for the value of the arts to government agencies. And we have a network of local coordinators all over the country who kind of coordinate activity and make sure that we have a direct line to all of our elected representatives, so that we can really make sure that the arts are on the agenda. And I guess now is one of those moments where we need to make sure that our voices are heard.
Yeah, and you were very active as an organisation in the run-up to our most recent election, weren't you, as well? There was a lot of kind of activity.
Yeah, for sure. So,
which was great.
Every year, or every time there's an election, I guess we make a pre-budget submission. We survey artists and arts workers in Ireland every year to make sure that we're speaking to the concerns and the needs of the sector. And then we put a proposal together, and we ask candidates for election to respond to them and to commit to them, ideally. I guess in a normal circumstance, we would now be in a situation where there would be a government formed and where they would be ideally enacting as many as possible of the policies that we put forward. But obviously, events have taken a different turn, and while there is a government being formed, obviously there's other than the kind of general state of crisis in which our sector finds itself, there's a kind of big crisis in which the world finds itself now. And we've had to respond quickly to that to make sure that the sector doesn't get left behind.
So, as a representative of that organisation, or a member of that organisation, and personally as an individual, what do you think the actions following this pandemic have kind of revealed about the government's approach to arts, and what do you think of the steps the government have taken regarding our arts sector following this?
I guess, before we'd even heard of COVID-19, we were in a situation where, the arts is a kind of busy and thriving and important sector of this country. 23,000 people are employed in the arts and culture in Ireland, but 72% of artists working in Ireland earn less than the national minimum wage. So already, as we know, as people who work in the arts work is precarious. It's often project to project, I think it's been. We were really impressed to begin with to see how government in general responded to the crisis in terms of how the health services, the Department of Health, this coordinated effort across government was really impressive, and the fact that the country seemed to be coming together. So then when I suppose we were waiting then for the response of the Department of Culture to see how the cultural sector would be supported, and of course the arts and culture were one of the first things to close, because even before the schools were closed, before the shops were closed, gatherings of over 100 people were closed. So immediately the Patrick's Day Festival was cancelled. Where We Live Festival project was cancelled, and then shows in theatres all over the country started closing down. I was in the middle of a run of What by Samuel Beckett in Cork at the Everyman, and we had to cancel the end of the run and an international tour. So we were really waiting to go. So we've closed our doors, and many arts workers are self-employed, but many other arts workers are PAYE employers that work from contract, or employees, I should say, that work from contract to contract, um, and uh, and I guess that's where the issues started arising, even before um, the Department of Culture produced their proposals. It was clear that many artists and arts workers were falling through the gaps in
Yeah.
the COVID uh, payment that had been proposed. It required people to be in employment if you were a PAYE worker in employment in the period just before the lockdown happened. So, taking the example of, say, an actor or a stage manager who was in employment a couple of weeks before the lockdown and was about to start another gig, um, but because they were not employed uh, during the period where the lockdown happened, they were not eligible for the payment. Um, and I guess also what we've seen is that arts work, a lot of which happens in the summer, and
Yeah.
and where a lot of people had projects that were coming up and have been cancelled or are continuing to be cancelled, that the COVID-19 emergency payment also doesn't take that kind of work into account. So the idea that there's future work that has been lost
Yeah.
isn't taken into account. So I guess we were waiting for the Department of Culture to come out with some serious initiatives, which would
Because
go,
yeah,
which would, I guess, would go some part of the way to supporting artists and art workers. And all we're calling for from the NCFA is for artists and arts workers to be treated equally with everybody else. We're not looking
hmm
for special treatment for the arts. We're just looking for an acknowledgement that the conditions under which artists and arts workers are often employed is often precarious and is project to project, and that the definitions that have been laid down for the COVID-19 emergency payment um, do not necessarily apply
yeah,
to artists and art workers.
they freeze
So,
people in our world out completely.
yeah, for sure. And then, so they announced a range of initiatives which came across much more as sort of PR exercises. The Shine a Light initiative, which obviously people got on board with, but didn't go anything towards supporting artists in their work. Um, and I guess the Arts Council then announced a scheme, but which required artists to come up with a new work in a time where artists have lost a lot of work, where maybe they have loads of projects that they've been working on and planning,
Yeah.
and also which required them to, essentially make this work on their own in isolation and distribute it, um, uh, which meant that many artists' practice didn't suit
Yeah.
that kind of work. I don't write text. I don't perform my own work. And I don't happen to have an orchestra and opera singers with me in the apartment. But,
Yeah, you don't have the kind of little team of mini actors to whip out of the cupboard and
no, totally.
direct.
And we don't have a pet, so I can't dress up the cat and
Yeah.
and that little plays.
Oh, someone should do that, a series of opera with their dog or something.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's coming if this goes on for longer. But so of course, that scheme could be useful for artists who are able to work on their own, who are able to disseminate their work online.
But
Um,
it's not inclusive of our industry across the board.
no, absolutely not, and also doesn't take into account the arts workers who are not artists. So who, if stage managers, technicians, people who work in costume, all of the other
Yeah.
people who have lost work as a result of this crisis have been left behind. So, as a response to all of these sort of inadequate measures, I think that we saw announced, the NCFA held a public meeting with up to almost 400 arts workers on Zoom. And out of that came up with a series of calls to action that we've made to the new government that's forming, to the Department of Culture, to the Arts Council, their new director, Maureen Kennelly, who's a very well-respected figure in the arts, who's worked in arts Communications as a producer, and who I think we have really a lot of confidence in that she'll understand the reality of being in the arts. But we need a stabilization fund for arts and cultural organizations. We need an investment of new money. It's estimated that about 10 million euros worth of income has been lost already in the cultural sector as a result of the shutdown. Over 12,000 events have been cancelled, with 2.4 million audience engagements.
Wow.
And we still don't know, because the Arts Council have only just surveyed independent artists and arts workers. We still don't know the direct impact on the country's 23,000 artists and arts workers, but we'll know that soon, I hope. And we'll continue to put a clearer picture together to advocate for the kind of support that the sector needs.
And there are other countries that are doing more for their artists at the moment right now, aren't there? So it's not impossible. I know people have talked about Germany and Wales.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, in Berlin, obviously, Ireland is also at the bottom of the European funding ladder in terms of the arts. That was the situation we were in already. So, obviously Germany supports the arts very well, but in Berlin, they had a scheme where artists who had lost work could apply on Tuesday for funding, and had 5,000 euros in their account on Wednesday morning.
Wow, yeah.
Arts Council England have come up with a scheme where about the same amount of money as the Arts Council's fund in terms of individual grants has been offered, but it's specifically to make up for lost income, or to think, or to do research, and doesn't require in a way artists to sing for their supper and to come up with a piece of work to demonstrate that they've kind of not just been sitting around at home. So I think I think there's a lot to be learned from what other countries are doing, and also I think there's a lot to be learned from government actually listening to the arts sector. These initiatives were rolled out before the needs of the sector were surveyed or assessed, and I hope now that the Arts Council survey of artists has been completed, that they'll be able to respond more directly to the needs of artists, investing money, being clear and open with the sector, ensuring that we can also plan for next year, because we also don't know when this is going to end. And it's very likely, of course, with social distancing, that the arts are also going to be the last ones back. We were the first to close, but actually, a lot of other sectors are going to open before we get to a situation where people can gather and sit close to each other in theatres or concert halls and experience the arts. So that's some of the things that we've been doing, and we're continuing to work to provide what the sector needs. We'll be hosting a webinar with practical information on the welfare initiatives, and also issues around rent and what Equity and SIPTU are doing on Friday at 3:30, and we're about to send out information about. So we'll send information about that, and we'll send it to you so you can share it through social media also. Right. And if people want to become more involved in our work, they can contact us through the NCFA website. We're looking for hands-on support from people in every constituency in Ireland. And
what would that hands-on support, what kind of form would that take? What can people do from their home to give the best kind of support to the organisation?
Well, I guess the first thing is to sign up to the NCFA mailing list through the website. And in a time like this, we're sending out regular calls to action. We're keeping people fully updated on what we're doing, on the various updates that we're getting from the various agencies on the various schemes. But right now we've asked members to write letters to their public representatives, to the TDs who will be forming the next government, and so, there's a template letter that we're asking people to send. We have small groups of members in each constituency in Ireland who engage directly with the TDs and develop a relationship with them, so that we, have people that who know the politicians, who can talk to them, and to really spread the word about what the NCFA is looking for, so that it's really on the agenda, and not only in the arts sector as well. I think people, the general public don't necessarily understand that that the arts sector is not being treated the way every other sector is, and the sector has particular needs. The way people work is structured in a particular way, and it seems like the only way that we're going to get equivalent support to other sectors is by asking for it and continuing to ask for it.
Yeah, and many people that aren't involved in the arts just really don't understand what that involves. So it's really good to spread that word. And my last question, I suppose, is more of kind of a general your opinion and thoughts and hot takes. You were talking about when the theatres do reopen, and how that probably we were one of the first things to close, will probably be one of the last things to reopen. How do you think that this might affect theatre kind of throughout the next year or more? Do you think people will be nervous to go to theatres or public spaces, or do you think there'll be a kind of roaring 20s moment, everyone wants to expose themselves to as much as they can? What's your kind of...
It remains to be seen, I think. I mean, I have kind of I'm excited by the idea that the Spanish flu was followed immediately by the Roaring Twenties, and I certainly can feel among people that I know a real desire to be out there and connecting with people and experiencing live culture. On the other hand, there's I think there certainly will be fears about whether the coronavirus has gone away, and in this situation, there was a recent survey in American theater which suggested they surveyed theatergoers in Washington D.C. and only half of the people surveyed would be confident to go back immediately. But I think it remains to be seen, and I think one of the things that's clear is that people are consuming so much culture during this time. And really looking to culture for consolation and inspiration and all of the things that we look to culture for, but even with a kind of greater intensity, I think. So I think there's a real potential for us to emerge from this kind of with a renewed purpose for people to gather around live culture. But there's a challenge, and we don't quite know how long it's going to go on for. And obviously there are so many forums and initiatives that are emerging in response to that, and I think these kind of digital forums will continue, and I think we'll find ways of engaging with these digital platforms in a way that's not just about transposing what we do in real space into virtual space, but also about doing things that we wouldn't be able to do otherwise. So, I think there will be very
interesting, actually, when this is over, to see if there's a big kind of embrace in terms of form of including all of the media that we've become so reliant on, or a big rejection of it and just a need to kind of have human beings that can touch each other on stages when it's all done.
Sure. But then we'll also have got so used to looking at everything on screens that that we may be we'll be able to kind of take in different kinds of digital work also. I'm finding it's funny in these days I'm actually not watching a lot of online theatre at all, and I'm engaging with other art forms that I tend to not engage with so much when I'm out at the theatre all the time. Like, I'm reading books, I'm listening to music, I'm watching the television.
I'm exactly the same. Yeah. I'm listening to loads of podcasts, which I never really engaged with that much before.
And actually, all of that will make our theatre making more rich, of course, because we're reconnecting with other art forms, we're reconnecting with things in the world, and once we get through kind of all of the inevitable plays about the COVID crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the revivals of Enda Walsh, of people like locked in going crazy. Then
Totally.
I think that there's huge potential for what we can do afterwards, and to kind of and just to really with renewed conviction, kind of throw ourselves into this amazing thing that we do, making things in rooms for people to experience.
That seems like a nice note to. Oh, wait. No, I was going to say a nice note to end on. I think we have a social media question for you, which is on the screen, but I can't read it. Let's see.
It's a comment, actually.
Great.
It looks like.
Pardon?
Great topic of convo. There's hope when listening.
It's just a comment. It's not a question. That's lovely. Yeah. That came from hope, I think. Killian Lenihan.
Oh yeah, and that's going to get that's hope and looking after each other in the way that we can, even though we can't see each other all the time, that we find ways of staying connected so that then we can be really connected when we get back in the room.
Yeah.
And okay. Killian's also asking, can we see an opera from Tom with the cat in the background? Hopefully, yeah, I'll find I'll see what I can.
Working on it. We'll touch back with the cat opera in a few episodes' time, maybe.
Brilliant.
Okay, thank you so much, Tom Reed, for joining us in our first ever episode. Hope you stay safe and well.
Thanks. See you soon.
Bye. Okay, so while formal venues and funding bodies are working to create quarantine-specific opportunities for artists, one online initiative comes from Niamh Murphy, an actor from Wexford and a graduate of the Lears Foundation diploma. Niamh is offering daily stimulus and prompts and a space for makers of all disciplines to share their creations while in isolation. We're going to hear from Niamh now.
My name is Niamh Murphy and I'm an actor and theatre maker based in Dublin, but I'm actually from Wexford, which is where I am now. I trained at the Lear Academy doing their foundation diploma in acting and theatre, and also with Youth Theatre Ireland doing their professional mentorship programme. So most of my work is based in the theatre. I'm an actor and maker / writer. I enjoy devising and collaborating with other people to make new work. I do painting, drawing, that kind of stuff. Try to play guitar. But no, not really professionally, but I do enjoy lots of different types of art.
I rode my bike up on the hill, I rode it back down again. Summertime had come, summertime had come.
Create While You Isolate is a Facebook group which I made for artists during the coronavirus crisis. It provides daily artistic prompts and support networks for artists during this time. Every morning at around 10 I post the daily prompt, and then people are welcome to respond to that in like whatever way they like. So music, writing, art, painting, whatever, it's very open. And then if they like, they can share what they've made with the group, or if not, you can just kind of keep it for yourself. So it's very open, and it's just a nice way to connect to artists during this isolated time. I made the Create While You Isolate group like pretty soon after the kind of isolation measures and stuff and the social distancing things were coming in. I think it was on like the 14th of March, so about a month ago. And I just kind of realised that a lot of people were going to be losing the physical space to talk about their work and talk and like collaborate and things like that. It had been an idea that I had for a while and talked to friends about, but as a more physical thing. So yeah, when the lockdown stuff kind of came in, I thought, sure, look, I might as well start it online and kind of see how it goes. Yeah, so many people have joined this group. I really just expected it to be like a couple of my friends, but loads of people have joined, and I think only there's 500 people in the group, and I think about 100 of them are friends with me on Facebook. which I think is great. Like, you know, people I don't even know are like contributing regularly and responding to prompts that I've made, and I just think that's gas. Like, you know, like there's people in like Canada, South America, you know, kind of from everywhere, all coming together and sharing their work. One of my favorite responses to a prompt was definitely Síofra Ní Éilí Duggins from a couple of days ago. I put up a prompt that was it was this bird doing like a ridiculous mating dance. It was taken from like what you call it, like Planet Earth or something, and Síofra recreated the whole scene, but as a fella like dancing in coppers trying to come on to you. So that was gas. What else? Oh, there's just been such amazing, like Ruan Mew from the band Castle Street. He wrote 2 like completely new songs based off the prompts, which were ridiculous, like just so cool. So yeah, no, it's been really cool to kind of contrast those and kind of see who came up with what. Also Edward Dignan, I think is how you pronounce his name. He created like a little, like a proper like puppet show based off of an opera. So like, yeah, there's just a lot of different stuff going on. And also, like, outside of the prompts as well, there's been a lot of people just kind of sharing other projects they're getting up to. Like Paul McDonnell is working on a massive Samuel Beckett head, and that's really cool to like see his progress on that, and loads of people sharing really cool portraits. Ruth Matthews, just yeah, loads of stuff. It's I'm blabbering now. Well, I guess I've made a lot of friends. Yeah, no, it's really nice having this like massive group of people who are all kind of there to support each other, and like there's no like pressure on you to make something. Like it's I really want to get away from this idea that during isolation you have to be Shakespeare and you have to write the next King Lear or whatever. Like none of that. Like, you know, if you are writing your novel now, like grand, and that's getting you through that, like brilliant, that's great for you. But I think we need to get away from the idea that we have so much more free time. Like we don't. But what this group has provided for me is kind of a place to use art as you know, as a tool to get away from the news, as you know, as a tool to connect with other people, and just to provide kind of like an outlet. Yeah, people can still join the group. It's pretty open. You do have to be on Facebook, I think, to join, but you don't have to be like friends with me or anything. So I have, the page is called Create While You Isolate on Facebook, and I have the links in my Instagram bio. My Instagram is @_Niamh Murphy, and it's also like pinned on my Twitter. So my Twitter is @NiamhMurphy0. So if you find the link there, you're like more than welcome to join. The more the merrier. Yeah, thank you.
Hello again. So now I'm going to be joined by the lovely Annie Ryan. Originally from Chicago, Annie trained at the Tisch School of the Arts in New York, and she's called Ireland her home for many, many years now. So Annie has worked extensively on stage and screen as an actor, a director, a collaborator. Most of you will probably be most familiar with her work with the company Corn Exchange, which she founded in the mid-90s. So like many of us, Annie is spending almost all of her time at home now with her family. Hello, Annie.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. I'm fine.
Good.
So, that was fun to hear the end of that little good advice from Niamh.
From Niamh. Yeah, it's a great group. And and it's been going. She got in on that really early in the isolation time, which was great. So Annie, you and I first met when you directed my classmates and I in Dubliners when I was at the Lear, and we started every rehearsal session with a yoga practice, and that was something that I had never done in such a consistent way as part of a rehearsal process before, and something that I've said, we've had conversations about this since, that really stayed with me as a part of my practice as an actor and a part of my practice just as a human, just kind of bled into life, which I think is the same kind of for you. So I was wondering if you would tell us, for you, did your kind of yoga and mindfulness practices, did these things begin in your life and then naturally complement your art, or did they begin in your art and then influence your life?
Well, my training really came from a very small Chicago studio called the Piven Theater Workshop. And that work was all kinesthetically based, physically based practice, ensemble games. And it's really the work I still teach. But by and large, it's about physical awareness, physical embodiment of the moment, and really encouraging kind of stepping into the abyss of the unknown to discover what is unfolding now. So that's really at the heart of the theater work that I grew up in and that I teach. And then, I don't know, 15 or some 20 years ago or something like that, I just naturally began to find yoga as a sort of movement nerd. So I would have been really into movement practices anyway, contact improvisation back in the day, and as I say, like all the work I teach and direct is coming from a physical background first. So the yoga was kind of a natural step for me. And then that began to grow. So it came like out of the theater practice into the yoga, and now it's feeding the theater practice, if you like. And more I'm finding kind of deeper and deeper correlations between exploration for an actor, or, you know, making a rehearsal room a really safe place, you know, ways in which both worlds can talk to each other, you know, either through exploration artistically, and also to help the nervous system calm down in order to really fully embrace the challenge of the work, you know, because as we all know, performing is so scary and making anything is so scary. And what tends to happen to us is that our minds are kind of conditioned to check on us and make sure we're okay. And in doing that, they tend to shut us down. So rather than letting all of the creativity flow in us, they go, not so sure about that idea. You know, that little voice in you to go, not sure you should say that, or don't do it like that, or actually stop being such an idiot, or, you know, and that negativity is important for discernment for sure. But it also can sabotage us. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting.
More they are fed by each other.
Yeah. Interesting that you kind of, when you said, as we all know, performance can be really scary, and that yoga is a great way to ground and reconnect and calm and settle. You know, it's so comparative to the situation we're all in now, which is for a lot of people really scary.
Yeah, and that fear is real. I mean, loads of us have relations who are ill, or, you know, parents or grandparents. You know, it's a real, so, or those of us who are lucky enough to be well and enjoying the beautiful spring and cooking or whatever it is you're up to. I'm aware that we talked earlier about, you know, people might be feeling guilt about being okay. And mainly, I think in our industry, but I would say this is across all industries really, is a deep pressure to continue the work, like a deep pressure to create. And, I like what Neve said, like, don't feel the need to do King Lear or something. I think I think while we want to kind of keep our creative lives fed and our creative juices kind of bubbling through this period, I would encourage people to take the time to rest, to let this be a genuine time to stop and not, we can't perform anyway, so you might as well take the opportunity.
Take the opportunity, yeah.
And, we don't know what the world will be like after this. We may well be facing into very serious economic depression. There's all kinds of future tripping that you can, catastrophize. What is the word?
Catastrophize.
That word. We can really go there, and that fear in ourselves, that little seed of fear, you can really water that these days with our addiction to screen time and reading the news. And, I would say I feel very, very lucky that I have a practice that I can go to find that nurturance and that antidote to the conditioning that we were all brought up in, which is like deliver, get busy, and really
be successful. Next thing, plan. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's part and parcel of actually, so much of the dysfunction that we're seeing in the world, particularly in the US and in Britain, with leadership that is so crazy and off the wall and, flying in the face of any sanity or any really caring, nurturing message. Like, I feel incredibly lucky to be here. I'm sure you do too, Amy,
absolutely. When I've spoken to my friends in the
issues
UK.
with Leo, and I've definitely my issues with Fine Gael, but I think we're very lucky that our Taoiseach is a doctor, and family are doctors, and so I think we're very, very lucky. But so what I want to say is, for those of you out there who are feeling the pressure to deliver, feeling the pressure to create now, if you're really burning to do that, then you're probably doing it anyway. Like if you're in the middle of a project, or if you're really getting joy from the creative process of writing or drawing or whatever it is you're doing, by all means keep doing it if it's really where your joy is. But if you're feeling pressure that you should be, if there's a should involved, then I would say there's a little bit of an issue, and that I would say don't. My friend, I have a friend who's an author in America, and so she's adept at working from home, being an author for a couple of decades. And her advice to the world was two things if you're working from home. One is get dressed, and the second one is make your bed. That's it. Get dressed and make your bed. And then, I don't know, go for a walk, rest, stay, get dressed in your yoga clothes, I would say, and, and lie down on the ground. Yeah. And I also wanted to share with your listeners a few teachers who offer free online guided meditation and stuff like that, which I find really, really helpful. And one amazing teacher is a woman called Tara Brach, Brach. And you could go to her website, tarabrach.com. And
we can throw up any links. We can put them up on our social media after this.
Sweet. So basically, every Wednesday night for years, she teaches this Wednesday night class. And she begins the class with a 20-minute guided meditation. So she's really, engaging the imagination with the practice in a way that's a little easier than, say, just a silent 15 minutes or completely silent 20 minutes, which is really challenging as a beginner. And then she offers a full hour talk about fear. And of course, and this is also a podcast, so you can get all this on her website, but she's a free podcast. And now, of course, she's teaching from home like all of us are. And so her material that she's uploading in these weeks are all about the pandemic and all about the shared consciousness of that and the opportunity we have to really find compassion for each other and compassion for ourselves. So she's a great starting point into a meditation practice. But there's loads of free yoga as well. And then there's also like an beautiful Irish studio called Yoga Kitchen.
I've never heard of them.
Oh, they're great. Maureen O'Grady and, they're really, really great. And so they're offering classes that I think they're like £8 a class or something. It's not expensive. And I know Kathy Pearson is doing things for gappenings.ie instead of happenings.ie. So there are loads of free, near or nearly free, or things that are like, charging.
Yeah, and there's yoga with Adriene and Fight Master Yoga and a few kind of...
Yeah,
great.
But I think the key here is that it's not to by all means get fit. I'm not, take the opportunity to get fit for sure. But the yoga that I'm trying to kind of encourage people toward is very, very gentle, is really the breathing practice of allowing the nervous system to calm down and find
nurturing
space.
And
Yeah, to find space. And I find... if you can cultivate that for yourself, especially if you're a bit, at any age, but, if you're young and start down that road, then it becomes incorporated into your creative life. And it means when you hit the heights of anxiety, which you will again and again and again and again, you become more adept at recognizing those signs of reactivity, recognizing those signs of shut down in the system, and just the ways in which the mind is tricking you into stopping or shutting you down.
Yeah.
So
when you feel out of control of the narrative that your brain is telling you, and you go, okay, no, actually, I can check back in with this, and I can get myself back.
Yeah.
I have another question for you, but we have a social media question. I have been told, which is, what sort of theatre do you hope to see more of in Ireland in 2021?
That's a great question. I think I want to see more theatre that really is giving voice to new stories, voice to the voiceless. But I want to see that in a way which also marries really... I want to say like sophisticated expertise, but I don't mean sophisticated in a polished way, but a really careful and expert hands somehow, like a marrying of empowerment of the voiceless, but with the skill of, using the theater skills that, so I want to see
really well.
Work, I want to see excellent work that powers new voices.
Yeah, I'd love to see that too. So my last question, actually not my last question, nearly my last question. This is a slightly ironic one because we're on a streaming platform right now, but you mentioned it kind of in passing earlier, and we discussed it earlier in the day as well. But the kind of screen time that people are exposing themselves to at the moment, and what that might be doing to us. What are your thoughts on kind of...
Well, look, the Zoom thing is a great gift in a way, but I heard feedback from another director who is doing some work with actors at the moment, and her feedback was that it's just totally depleting. Like so normally you might be able to do like an 8-hour day in a room, but they're finding 2 hours is like 2 hours on Zoom is like totally exhausting. And I think, the body can't be that engaged in this kind of format. So that's something. And the weirdness of seeing your own image is also, so I would say like, nice to be online right now, but after this, turn off your screens.
Yeah.
And get outside, like get out and check out the trees and the
Yeah.
beautiful blossoming of spring. It's such a gift, you know. Or
Which,
even just
this was
wander.
another thing we said earlier, that now that there are less cars and everything, being outside, you can smell spring so much more
Right,
strongly
yeah.
than before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if you live close enough to town, it's so amazing to wander the streets with there's no cars, and it's a
Yeah.
really, really, really special time. And there really is an opportunity here to step up to the plate, not to deliver, but to step up in your own awareness and really listen for, you know, what really turns you on, what really lifts
Yeah.
your skirt, where's the joy, you know, what really brings you joy, and to do some journaling, to allow your attention to go inward at this restful time. You know, I also
Yeah,
wanted to
so
mention
that you can power up and then bring more
Yeah.
later. Yeah.
Well, right, because I mean, what are you going to do with it now?
Yeah.
My friend Kathy Scott has an amazing company called the Trailblazery, and she has been doing lots of kind of work with around the full moon and now the new moon, mainly with just women. But she's just launching a thing for the next 2 weeks called the Hedge School, and you can find it at Trailblazery. Whichever it is, IE or com, I'm not sure which, but anyway, we can put it up.
We'll find it.
But she's gathered a whole bunch of really extraordinary thinkers and politicians and creative people to have this kind of hedge school, which would be an old Irish, you know, during the penal laws, a kind of secret school. So there's all kinds of really rich material coming up to kind of really investigate what's really calling you, you know.
Yeah.
And
yeah, in this time where there's no rush, you can be a sponge for a bit, and you can probe, and you can go down one alley and then go down another alley. Yeah, it's a unique opportunity in many ways.
It is, and I think to know that it's happening on a global level is a bit it's like really amazing. It's everywhere. So it is a kind of global moment to, you know, really just consider that for a moment and consider all the people all over the world that are sharing the same feelings of anticipation, of fear, of the unknown, but also of the rest, the opportunity to rest, the opportunity to care for others, even by isolating, you know. So it's a really extraordinary moment, I think. Very creative moment.
So I'm hearing that we have another social media question, which is up on the screen there. So this is from Killian Lenihan. Is it important to have routine, not just in our work, but even more so now? Some people feel under pressure to be productive now that we do have the time. So I think that's two questions. I think that's, would you recommend finding a structured routine for your days? And I think the second question you've already answered in the kind of don't feel pressure to be.
They're really connected, right? Like I think my friend's advice is pretty good. Like, I think it probably is good to like lay off the booze, try to get up early, get dressed and make your bed. But I think there is an opportunity to play with that, like to have a day with no form and see what that's like and really follow your impulse. Like what if you could treat it like a bit of a discovery? So like one day you could make a plan and really stick to it, and the next day you could just let it all go and spend the whole day just following your impulse. There's never any answer to that, but there's something about finding a balance. Once you have too much structure, or once you're imposing too much regulation on yourself, then you're in danger, I think, of tapping into I should be up by now. I should be, you know. But
I really like that. I've kind of done that accidentally. I didn't think about it until you said it then. But that kind of investigating, I kind of was like, okay, I'm not going to set an alarm for a week. I'm going to see what time my body wants to wake up, and then I'm going to go to bed when my body's tired. You know, how do I react 2 days after having drunk alcohol when I don't have being busy that day to blame on it? Or, you know, and when am I most productive? It is an exciting opportunity to do that kind of self-discovery.
Yeah. And I think really listen in, like if you're feeling particularly anxious or down, like this could be quite a depressing time for a lot of people because we're used to being, or because, you know, in a way, like if you rest, if you're sleeping all day and not getting outside, I would say get out, wake up early and get outside, you know. But I think do be careful of the, you know, how can you feed yourself with the good stuff, you know? So I would be careful about watching too much violence. I mean, this would be like the Zen. There's a Buddhist teacher called Thich Nhat Hanh who sort of says, don't ingest violence. So he would say, like, don't eat meat because it's violence. I mean, but also like, don't be ingesting violent news, violent programming, violent films. You know, if you're feeling very sensitive, I would be like, so you can surround yourself with beautiful things right now in nature. You can eat good food and just slow yourself down. But I think make sure you're getting out in nature. Slow down. It's a beautiful talk by online. Krista Tippett has this wonderful podcast called On Being, where I was telling you about this, where she interviews these amazing people. She's been on radio for like years and years and years. So these are also free podcasts. But she had one up the other day with this monk who was talking about gratitude and the feeling, the difference between gratitude and thankfulness. That gratitude is the feeling you have in the body that swells up before you name anything, before it comes into language. So it's just a feeling of the heart swell. And then it sort of overflows into the need to articulate, which becomes the act of thanksgiving. Anyway, this guy was amazing.
Wow.
But his whole teaching was stop, look, go. So it was just stop whatever you're doing. Take the pause. Come in to just take the pause and come in to listen and look for something to be grateful for. So he's not saying that you should be grateful for everything. We can't be grateful for everything. So we can't be grateful for war or illness or tragedy or injustice. You know, we're not grateful for those things. But he says in every moment you can find gratitude. Even
there's always something.
There's always something to find. So look for that and then go, which is to take the action of giving thanks or to take the action of whatever your impulse, wherever your impulse is telling you to go.
I think it was yesterday, read a quote that said, gratitude is the key to happiness and comparison is the thief of joy.
Oh, that's a good
and
one.
That kind of links back as well, I suppose, to what we were saying about spending too much time on your phones, kind of going, oh, so-and-so's making a banana bread. Why aren't I making banana bread? So-and-so's done a 5K run. Yeah.
Comparison mind, they call it. Yeah. It's really, you know, that's linked to our egoic minds that want to hang on to, create and hang on to a sense of identity, you know. But in these wisdom traditions, that all of that yoga and the meditation work and all of that is all of that is pointing to a bigger, wiser part of yourself that's connected to awareness. So you can be aware that you're going down that road of thinking, overthinking, and, you know, climbing into all your stories about yourself. But are they really true? You know, Tara Brach, great talk about that. She says, well, they're real, like they feel real. They're not real, but are they true? Real, but not true.
You're feeding those self-narratives and which ones do you want to feed and which ones, you know, could maybe get a little bit thinner.
Yeah.
Very last question, for real this time, is what would your hopes be looking forward beyond this pandemic when everything goes back to whatever the new normal is? What are your hopes for that next period of time?
Well, I suppose in Ireland, and this feels like a bit of a pipe dream, to be honest, but it would be amazing if we could, if the message that's coming through from the reaction toward the initiatives being taken by the governmental agencies about, sharing work on Facebook or whatever, if that activism could be really heard and valued, and maybe we could organize ourselves better to make sure that we can really put forward the value of what we really do. Germany is supporting their artists to the tune of 50 million or something,
Yeah.
So, but I'm not sure I really, I think I'm a little bit of a pessimist in that regard, but I would still love to see the movement happen. But in a bigger way, I think what I really hope happens is that in our world that people realize at this time what they really value and what they really need, and what really brings them joy. And I'm hoping. I hope everyone does. I don't want everyone's little businesses to collapse, but at the same time, do you really need to get your whole body waxed every couple of weeks? Do you really need to have the nails done all the time? The pressure to kind of deliver this, this self to the world in this packaged way might strike us as ridiculous when we come out of it. I have a neighbor who runs a big, successful shipping company, and he's decided already to kind of let go of his office when they come back and let everyone work from home, because everyone's happier there and they're still getting the work done, and he saves the rent.
And if the work is being done and it's still productive, no, absolutely.
So
there probably will be unexpected changes that we can't predict.
I'm sure, but it'd be amazing if people could feel that they're more in touch with their really authentic selves, their really, their real compassion, and not being sucked into the old shit, of having to be better or should be. Whenever there's a should in there, you should be worried. You should be.
If people can be empowered by their true self and their true intentions, that would be a positive thing to come out of something so disastrous in so many ways for so many people. So on that note, positivity in spite of everything. Thank you so much, Annie Ryan. I'm very grateful to you for coming on this show. And I hope you keep safe and well.
You too, and good luck, everybody. Namaste.
Bye. Bye. Namaste.
Christmas Day.
Okay. Great. Bye. So that was Annie Ryan. We heard earlier from Tom Creed. We also heard from Niamh Murphy, Create While You Isolate. Thank you so much to everyone for tuning in to the first ever episode of Stage Door Live by theatremaker.ie, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Good night.